you are asking. Can you repeat another once? You have a thermopile made with J-type thermocouples, right?
Yeah, means I am fixing using for 10 thermocouples. I'm manufacturing a thermopile.
Okay.
For means, and I'm fixing that. Like let's suppose I'm fixing that maximum millivolts it can bear. That's circuit, thermoelectric circuit means individual thermocouple circuit can bear.
Individual thermostat. Okay.
Can bear is 4 millivolts.
4 millivolts. Okay.
So the thermopile like can show me 40 millivolts.
Correct.
But sometimes it's showing me like more than like some slight like
Slight variation.
beyond.
You are saying that if it is varying, how do I find out the temperature? Is that what your question is? Suppose if it is varying, what is is that what your question?
Yes. And
see, so that's what we call it as a deviation, right? That's what we call it as a error. Whatever be the reason, probably that will come into picture, and you are expecting it to be 40 millivolts according to what you know, because that temperature with a one sensor is giving you, with one thermocouple is giving you 4 millivolts. You are saying that the same temperature difference, if I kept with 10 thermocouples, similar thermocouples, suppose if my voltage is varying in between 30 to 45, what does that mean? Is that the question?
Yes. Means I am fixing maximum 40, but it's showing me sometimes 45. Like you told us in millivolts of deviation is also too much. So means what can I say? Like is there a fault in thermometer?
My simple question is, you are saying that it is deviating. That means, have you tested that it is deviating, or if it deviates? Are you thinking that what if it deviates? It's a hypothetical question. Or
Yes.
have you tested a thermopile, and if you are getting 45 volts, is that what you are asking?
No.
I'm not clear.
I am asking what if it deviates like.
So generally deviation with the electrical things will be very less actually. Okay, if it's a mechanical measurements and all, we'll have deviations because of this mechanical wear and tear and all that. There will be sometimes more or less we'll have variations. But with electrical and all, because of the electrical properties, we expect lesser deviations. It cannot be 40 to 40, 45 to 35, 10 volts, 10 millivolts may not be there. For example, even if it is there, that is where the calibration thing comes into picture. As I told you, if it is it is deviating too much, then that instrument may not work for you. 10 millivolts of 40 plus or minus 10 millivolts is a huge error. You cannot use such a device. There may be error in the lead wires, or there may be that junction may not be proper. If you are keeping the junction proper, it is bound to give you very close values. Have you understood? If it is deviating, that means there are certain other errors that are creeping into the measurement. Like your junction may not be proper, your contact may not be proper. Okay, on the surface, somewhere it is loose, somewhere it is. Likewise, some difference is there. Otherwise, and the surface temperature may not be uniform. You are expecting 40, but on the surface you are actually holding it at different places, right? You are actually touching that at different places. So in one place, are you so sure that the temperature of the surface everywhere is the same? In general, it is very difficult to get isothermal temperature. If you want to get, do you think suppose you have some material like a brass material, if you are heating it from bottom, do you expect that everywhere the temperature will be same initially?
No, sir.
Correct. So for getting an isothermal temperature, what you need to do is you have to keep a heater plate from the bottom, and it has to be copper or aluminum, which is having high thermal conductivity. Clear? And you have to wait for certain time before taking the measurement, such that the temperature is spread all around and it comes to a steady state where everywhere the temperature is same. So when you are connecting at different places on a non-isothermal surface or something, then you are bound to have a difference in the voltage fluctuation, right? It may not be 40 because the temperature is varying at each point. That may be the reason. So you have to find out what can be the reason. You have to, as an experimentalist, you have to check each and everything, whether the junction is made properly. The point, you may not see, you thought that the junction is made, but the two wires which are making the bead, one wire may be cut. You may not recognize it because the bead will be slightly spherical in shape and it will be like a thick one. So you may not know the wire is actually connecting to it or not. Sometimes the contact, again on the surface, how do you connect? Do you think how do you connect the thermocouple to the plate? How do you do that?
Like
By just putting it. I mean that means without any surface, binding surface, you will just keep over it. You can do that, but over a period of time, your hand may move. There may be a small breeze of air which actually lifts the bead. Certain things may happen. So what you need to do is you have to use a binding material like whatever the we have some binding materials which actually what we call it as Fevikwik, for example. If not Fevikwik, that kind of I'm not getting the name, but we have some materials which actually binds very quickly. But in that, the problem is if we are keeping that the thermal conductivity of that material, maybe generally aluminum grease or something we can use. That is the perfect quantity. Actually, aluminum grease is available in the market. If you bring and you put that, aluminum have a high thermal conductivity, so you will not have any contact losses. Okay, but in general, if you use a material which is having a thermal conductivity lesser than the thermal conductivity of the bead material, then obviously your temperature movement will be slower at the bead. That is one of the reasons for getting a lower voltage generation, because what you are sensing with the thermocouple is not the actual surface temperature. It is the surface temperature of the grease which is actually adhering the plate with the thermocouple. Are you getting me, Amarnath? Am I confusing you?
Yes, sir. Ratings.
Yeah, so there are many, even in a small thermocouple to plate, you have many things to address. So as if you are getting too much of a deviation, and theoretically you know that this is the one that you have to get, you have every chance of fixing it, because by carefully examining each and everything stepwise, we can always get that back to 40 or 41. Maximum 40 plus or minus 0.5 millivolts. As I told you, there is always some inbuilt errors. You cannot exactly get that. Even with electrical, why we go for electrical thing is why not we go for mechanical is one of the reason is electrical things are easily reproducible. Time and again we can reproduce the same without any loss. So that is the best thing why we go for any sensor. It converts the signal into electrical signal because it can be reproduced, it can be amplified, it can be monitored or conditioned to whatever form we want. So that is the best thing about electrical parameter changes. That means voltage change or current change. Okay, so generally, in general, we expect the voltage to be multiplied by the same amount, n into each one, the number of into that same. That is what we can expect. Are you satisfied, Amarnath? Anything more?
Yes, sir.
If you have further doubt, we can discuss privately. You call me sometime in the evening and try to answer if you have further questions. All right. So let us move on to the today's class. So I hope you are clear that today we will have only up to the thermocouples we will have for the exam.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I had the doubt.
Yeah. Go on.
Sir, like in series and parallel combination, like is it necessary we use only same thermocouples in combinations?
Exactly. Then only you will calling it as the parallel thing, right? Because each one will be having a different EMF generation and all. It depends on the CPEC effect coefficient, right? Your temperature and your EMF generation, they both are voltage potential difference that you are creating. Delta T and delta F, they are related to the CPEC coefficient. And on what basis CPEC coefficient will be on the two materials that you are selecting. So for each one, if you are varying, automatically your values will be varying. So you never know what you are getting is because of that or not. Okay, so for making it sure, as Mr. Amarnath has rightly pointed out, suppose if there is an error, a lot of deviation. If it is it's like minimizing the error. If you may argue, sir, why cannot I use? I can use because I use the same different materials for calibration, and can I use the same different materials made the thermopile for measuring the unknown temperatures? You can do that. Okay, when your calibration is correct, then automatically your unknown measurement will also be coming correct. But only problem is if it deviates too much. If you want to synthesize where the problem is coming, then automatically this problem will come. So that's why, to make it simple, to make it as error-free as possible, we always connect the same materials together.
Yes, got it. Yes, sir, understood.
Yeah. Right. So today's class, so far we have seen in the temperature. Can anybody record that? Just wait, I'll record it. So far in the temperature measurement, we have seen different types of classification of measuring devices in temperature. What is the basic classification that we have based on what principles we are based on the principles that working principles, we have classified different temperature measurement devices, and starting from thermometers, which work on the principle of displacement or mechanical effects. We have moved on to thermoelectric effects so far. Okay, with thermocouples we have seen. And one thing that I wanted to show you, and I forgot to clearly mention, was when I was discussing about the bimetallic strips, we have got an expression, right? So this was the expression that I told for the radius, curvature of radius. Okay, radius of curvature R, it is Eskin and Fritsch has given a particular relation. Okay, so are you seeing my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the radius of curvature is equivalent to T into 3 into 1 plus m whole square plus 1 plus mn into m square plus 1 by mn plus 6 alpha 2 minus alpha 1 T minus T naught 1 plus m square. So this is what we have seen. Okay. So T naught is the initial bonding temperature. Okay, whatever the initial temperature, that is T naught. What is T? The temperature at which we are actually seeing the curvature effects is at T, capital T. Alpha 1 is lower coefficient of expansion that comes at T naught, and alpha 2 is the higher coefficient of expansion per degree centigrade. For 1 degree centigrade, at this particular degree centigrade, what is the alpha 2 that we will take? And then n is the ratio of modulus of elasticity. You know, modulus of elasticity, capital E1 to capital E2. So it is from our elasticity of low to high expansion materials. So what is the lowest material that have? In here you can see lower coefficient of expansion. There are two materials, correct? We have two materials over here. One is the one material will be there like this, and then another material is like this, right? So let us say that this is the first element, alpha 1, second element, alpha 2. So this is 1, this is 2. Material 1, material 2. So whichever in alpha 1 and alpha 2 is having the lowest coefficient of expansion is our alpha. Okay, lowest expansion in these two values. So suppose if it is having 50, just let us say, and this is having 40. So our alpha 2 will be equivalent to alpha 1. Don't get confused. Okay? Since I have mentioned that 1 and 2 materials, you should not take. It is the lower coefficient of expansion. Similarly, alpha 1 will be your higher coefficient. Here whatever I defined alpha 1 will become alpha 2 here. Okay. Similarly, whatever the value of E1, modulus of elasticity, E2, whichever is higher, whether E2 is higher or E1 is here, whichever lowest, E lowest by E highest is nothing but your, okay, modulus of elasticity, stress by strain. Okay, the stress by strain of these two materials which is within the elastic limit, that value, whatever we are taking, so whichever is lower value to the higher value, we are taking it as a value. And then ratio of thickness of low to high expansion material. I mean to say, so in these two materials, whatever is having lower is alpha 1, whatever we are taking here, for in this case, your T1 is this, because it is having a lower expansion. T1 is this, T2 is this. So T1 by T2 is your, because here alpha 2 is lower coefficient of expansion, therefore corresponding to this I am keeping it as T1 and T2. So capital T is the combined thickness of the bonded strip. What is the total T is what we call it as capital. Clear? Is that okay with it? So this is the temperature which I want to find out. Capital T is what I where that I am actually finding out, and T naught is the initial temperature at which I am taking the values. Okay, for finding out M and all. So now what you can see is either there are two unknowns. One is the radius of curvature and the other one is temperature. If someone gives you that it is bent like this, where this is a fixed end, this is a fixed end, you can say this as a fixed end, and you have a central surface. This suppose it got bent like this. Okay, so the angle is suppose the radius of curvature, whatever the curvature you are having, this much. If you know this radius of curvature, what is how much it has bent, then you can find out what is the temperature. This one you can find, or they may ask you, they will give you the T and they will ask you what is R. Either of them is possible. So there are two unknowns. One of them will be given, all others can be given in the problem. One they will give and other one you have to find. Clear? So that is what I missed in the previous session that I forgot to talk about. So today's class will be mostly on, so whatever the question that they have asked, earlier question. So when you are using iron or constant and wire, see you can, when they are connecting in parallel, but the simplest thing they have done is all the thermocouples are similar in nature. If they are again different, what happens? Suppose they have constant and wire is there. Again, if I put another thing here, the resistance of this is different. Again, there may be another value that comes, another EMF will be generated, another EMF will be generated, another EMF will be generated. That will make this go wrong. You may argue that, sir, I have taken with the same thing, calibration curve, and calibration is perfect. I have a calibration curve like that. Can't I use this? True. You can, if you have a calibration, definitely you can use this for the other unknown measure. The problem is, if you have a lot of errors, you will never know what could be the reason why you are getting the errors. So for making it simple, to eliminate that EMF value because of the wires, whatever the wires, which is difficult to analyze or measure, we are eliminating and we are keeping everything the same. Now, today's class will be temperature measurement by electrical methods. Okay, so electrical methods of temperature measurement, they are very easy and convenient. So mostly what they try to do is they furnish a signal which can be easily detected, amplified, or used for controlling things. Why we go for electrical effects, if not for mechanical effects? So time and again, if you want to reproduce the same effect by mechanical effect, because of wear and tear and other things, other properties of the materials, it may not be the same. Reproducing the same effect may become different over a period of time. But in electrical properties, it is easy for us to get a signal which we can easily detect, we can find out, we can sense it, amplify. Suppose if you want to increase the size of the voltage, we can do that, or condition the signal is easy, and then use for controlling purposes. We can also use the signal to control the process parameters. Second thing, they are usually quite accurate. In general, they are very accurate when properly calibrated and compensated. So you have to do that. A calibration curve, if you can do, they are generally accurate. Once you do the calibration, what you will get, what can be the error with the actual measurement you can get, And if you can compensate that, you will always take out the errors from the measurement. So calibration is one thing, finding out what is the uncertainty is one thing, eliminating that uncertainty is compensation. As we have seen that the temperature effects, okay, so the temperature effects can always be compensated. We will see what it is. You just, for the time being, you remember I've used the word compensation. Okay, in thermocouples also we have used the word compensation. So the relationship of electrical resistance of a wire with its temperature, we know that the temperature as well as the electrical resistance of a wire, they have a directly proportional relationship. Sometimes inversely proportional relationship is also there with some materials, but mostly we could see that in general materials that we see, we have a direct relationship with the temperature of the resistance. The first one is the resistance temperature detector, and the second one is thermistor. So based on the electrical relation between the electrical resistance and wire its temperature, the instruments that we use for temperature measurement are two types. One is the resistance temperature detector, which is also called as RTD. The second one is thermistor. These are the two important devices we will use for measuring temperature, working on the principle of variation of electrical resistance because of temperature change. So first we will have a look at the resistance temperature detector, which we call it as RTD. So can any one of you tell me what is the relation between temperature and resistance? As temperature increases, in general, what happens to resistance?
Resistance also increases.
Resistance increases means the current of flow is being reduced, right? So whenever the current is reduced, we have a change in the Wheatstone bridge circuit. Based on the voltages, we will lose the null deflection, null method. So basically what we do, we will increase the current to make that come back to its original position. So whatever the extra voltage or current that we are providing to the bridge circuit, we relate that to temperature. That's what we do. So we can see here the linear temperature coefficient of resistance. So the word we have used is linear, and coefficient of resistance, because of temperature we have a coefficient of resistance, which we are defining it as alpha equivalent to R2 minus R1 by R1 into T2 minus T1, which is nothing but alpha into T2 minus T1, the actual relation, plus 1 into R1 is equivalent to R2. So this is the relation from which we have got to this particular relation. So where R1 and R2 are the resistance at T2 and T2 respectively. R1 is related to initial temperature T1. R2 is temperature related to T2. So these two are very easy to find. And from that, if you know T1 and if you know alpha of that material, you can always find T2. Or if you know the temperature, you can always find out the alpha. So there are two unknowns. By knowing one of the parameter, we can always estimate the other parameter. But what is the problem with this particular linear temperature coefficient of resistance is the coefficient of resistance with respect to temperature is linear in a very small temperature range. So that means what I'm trying to say is, for a very small temperature change, it may be linear, and after that it may be exponential. So this is the range, very small range. We are using this as linear. Alpha value, we are defining it as linear only in the temperature range between T2 and T1. Beyond which we cannot use this. Okay, so after this, it may go like for wider ranges of temperature, the resistance is given by a quadratic. Once after the linear range is gone, we generally use a quadratic relation. R is equal to R0 into 1 plus AT plus PT square. Okay, where R and R0 are resistance at T and T0 respectively. T0 is the reference temperature, where we are actually taking the initial temperature, and T is the unknown that we want to find. So your resistance nature will vary with respect to temperature with this. So here there are two unknowns, A and B. How do we find out the A and B? So what we are trying to do is, with known temperatures, we know the final temperatures. Initial temperature I know, from that R0 I will find out, and that I keep on changing my T, and with my change in T, my resistance also gets changed. So for each T, what is the change in resistance I will find out. Similar kind of a calibration, R and T, I will find out. From this I got a curve like this. So this quadratic expression I have given over here, and from the regression analysis I will find out what is A and what is B. From the regression analysis, whatever these constants I will define, and therefore A and B are experimentally determined constants. So we have done an experiment, mathematically we tried to put that in a form, and from that I will be able to find out the constants that I have to use for the resistance measure. Okay, so here I am given a small table which shows you for different materials what can be the alpha and what can be the resistivity. You know the difference between resistance and resistivity. What do you mean by resistance? The relation between resistance and resistivity. Resistivity is equivalent to
Resistance is tendency of any electrical circuit to resist the flow of current.
But what is resistivity?
It's the material property to resist current.
No. You look at the units. You look at the
length upon area.
Correct. Into length into resistance into length in by upon area. That is what is the correct area. So rho L by A we generally use. Okay, so resistivity values they have already given for per unit length or area they have defined. So here it is micro ohms into centimeters. This is the units they have used. Okay. So generally you can see that for different materials, the different values of alpha, coefficient of expansion, linear coefficient of expansion, and its resistivity they are given. So even in the exam, if some data is not given, you can always look at this and try to find out what it is. Okay. So that is what we call it as resistance thermodynamics, and these are, as mentioned, resistance temperature detectors. So what they will do is our sensor. These are sensors. Basically, RTDs are nothing but sensors which are used to measure temperature. And the principle is simple, that the resistance of the RTD element, the relation between the resistance of the RTD element with respect to temperature is what we try to evaluate and find out the temperature. So what is the most important thing while making an RTD sensor? The most important thing is the resistance wire, whatever we are using, it should be free from mechanical stresses. Number one. Number two, there should not be any moisture content that is coming in contact with the wire, because what happens if there is a moisture content, it tends to attract the dust particles and all. The dust will stick to the moisture content over the surface, so it will stick. And because of that, there will be a variation in the resistance because it forms a layer. Therefore, the whatever the heat that is being developed will not be going out very quickly, and therefore these are all the causes of errors. Okay, so therefore you have to make sure that it is absolutely free of mechanical stresses. That means you should not wind it, or you should not bend it too much. Okay, and then you should make sure that the moisture content should not be coming in contact with it, because the moisture tends to vary the resistance. Similarly, the dust particles should not come into contact with that particular sensor. So what is the methodology by which we actually create the RTD, or resistance thermometer? Most RTD elements, what they will do, they have a fine coiled wire. So there is a very small diametrical wire which is fine, very, very fine, which is wrapped around a ceramic or glass core. We will take a ceramic core or a rectangular thing or a glass thing. On the top of it, we will wrap a ceramic thing, and then we will cover that, we will protect that with liquid glass or something, molten glass or something, we will pour over it, such that it will always be away from the moisture content directly, but They are very accurate. They generally are very accurate if you are properly making sure that there is no mechanical stresses and it is properly protected. These are very accurate measurement devices. There are other ways also. The other way around is we will have we will make this platinum or something. This is a platinum wire we are keeping on a ceramic or glass core. This platinum liquid metal, we will put it on a very thin strip of a metal and then we will etch it. Etch means we will rough it such that it forms a thin layer, and on top we are actually putting some protective sheath, and then we can use it as an RTD. Okay, so that is generally used as a RTD. So they are in industries, most of them they're slowly replacing the use of thermocouples with RTDs. But as I told you, they are highly accurate and repeatable below 600 degrees centigrade. So RTDs we will safely use below 600 degrees. We will not go for higher temperatures. If at all we want to measure temperatures which are higher than 600 degrees, we will go for thermocouples in general in the industry. Clear? What are the advantages and limitations of electrical effects? The advantages of resistant thermometers include they are very highly accurate. You know, the repeatability is very high. There is a low drift. As I told you, the deviations will be while loading and unloading, there is not too much of drift that you can see. So they will be able to reproduce for the same temperature, they will be able to show the same resistance time and again. So there will be no drift. They have wide operating range. They can be operated on a wide temperature range. So the sensitivity is also good in this, even though it has wide operating range. And they are suitable for precise applications. So wherever we want precise, that means from the true value, the deviation has to be as small as possible. What is the deviation that we found out in the thermocouple? That is one of the limitation of a thermocouple. I have clearly mentioned in the last class. What is the error that we can get from what is the uncertainty that we can get from a thermocouple? .1 degrees to 0.2 degrees, correct? That was what I have mentioned in the last class. So with the thermocouple, the error can be 0.1 degree centigrade. 1 degree to 2 degrees centigrade, that is the maximum. So, but in RTDs, the precision, that means the deviation is very, very less. That is around 0.5 to 0.1 degree centigrade range. So these are much precise measurement devices compared to thermocouples. So that's why they are kind of replacing the thermocouples. Okay, next one. Compared to limitation, when it comes to limitations, what are the limitations? Platinum RTDs are less sensitive to small temperature changes and has a lower response time. The problem is with RTDs, the response time. Okay, when you are making dynamic measurements, when you are preparing these RTDs, you are having a protective sheet. If it is too much covered over the surface, your response time will increase. For detecting the temperature, it will take more time to respond. So 90% of the input to show as an output, it will take more time. Okay, and for small temperature changes, it may not be able to be to change any output because of the protective sheet that we are forming over it. Okay, therefore, platinum RTDs are compared to thermistors, which we will see in the next slide. We will talk about in the next slide. Compared to them, RTDs are less sensitive. They are not very sensitive compared to the thermistors. So therefore, generally thermistors will be used. That is what the meaning of it. So you can be precise, you may be highly accurate. The problem is it has a wide range, but its sensitivity is not that great. Number two, it has a very slow response time. So for standard steady state condition measurement, if you want to measure, it will take some time. But when it comes to dynamic measurements, these are not very, very efficient things unless we keep the protective sheet to a particular thickness or we follow particular standards to provide the protective sheet over the RTD. Second one, RTDs are industrial applications are rarely used above 660 degrees. So you cannot go beyond 600 degrees centigrade. In general, 660 degrees in industries is the maximum that you will use in industrial applications where RTDs will be used. So because why that is happening is due to the contamination of resistance element at higher temperature. As you move over 600 degrees, your resistance will behave in a different way. Initially under 600 degrees initially for a very small range it is linear, and then we can model that by a quadratic polynomial. But after 600 degrees, it is difficult to measure the variation of resistance with respect to higher temperature. So therefore, generally people will restrict themselves to measure up to 660 degrees in an industrial environment. The next one is very important one is in a resistance thermometers. What is the problem is we are actually sending the current and there is a resistance in the wire because of the temperature, and therefore when the resistance is going on increasing because of what happens is there is a current, that is a heat that is generated because of the I square R. We call it as I square R losses. So they tend to get heated up. So initially there is a temperature that we have to measure, but there is a self-heating that is happening within the wires. So when that happens, your errors will be more. Correct? Whatever the lead wire, whichever the sensor wire that you are using, because of the resistance, the temperature of the wire may increase because of its own properties like I square R. Okay, so because of that, ohmic losses we call it as. Because of the ohmic losses, we have self-heating of the wire. So suppose we are measuring a temperature of 100 degrees centigrade and the temperature of the wire is increased by 2 degrees centigrade. Actually what we are sensing is 1 or 2 degrees centigrade, not 100 degrees. So automatically we have an error. Therefore, we need to have a compensation. Compensation means the measurement, because of the self-heating, whatever the temperature is raised, that what is that amount of raise in the self-heated, raise in the temperature due to self-heating. If you can measure that, you can subtract that from the actual value and get the true value. Isn't it? That is what we call it as compensation. I'm repeating again. There are two ways of when we are actually measuring the temperature of a surface by means of an RTD. Due to the resistance, there are ohmic losses. Because of self-heating, there is extra temperature that is generated within the lead wire. Okay, so now we want to compensate that extra temperature. Suppose if we are connecting another wire of the same resistance from here to there, and in between if we keep a galvanometer to measure the current. So obviously we will be able to find out what is the self-heating, because of what self-heating, what is happening, whatever the temperature is, and from that we will be able to find out the error that is induced due to self-heating, and that we can subtract from the original value at the measured value to get the true value. Hope I haven't confused you. Is it clear? Is it, or should I repeat it?
It is clear, sir.
Yeah. So we have temperature choice of RTDs. We will see what is compensation and all. Before that, we will compare, try to have where we need to use RTDs, where we need to use thermocouples. This may not be in the syllabus also, but why I talked about this is as a student you may be confused which one we have to use where. So this is just for the sake of your information. I am giving extra. It's not in the syllabus, but this is a good comparison that will help you. So temperature wise, if you are selecting if you are in a confusion, which one we have to select. So these are the guidelines based on which you can select whether an RTD or a thermocouple. If the process temperatures, that means the temperatures of the surfaces where of the fluid or solid, whichever you are measuring, are between -200 to 500 degrees centigrade. Okay, so if it is less than 500 degrees centigrade, then obviously you can go up to industrial RTD is the preferred option, because that is more accurate compared to thermocouple, because it is having lower deviation, lower drift. But if you are having a variation of temperature range from -180 to 2320 degrees centigrade, if your temperature range is 2320 degrees centigrade, we can go for thermocouples. Okay, so that's for what is the bottom line, or what is the crux of this thing is, if your temperature that you are going to measure are assumed to be greater than 500 degrees, then thermocouples are the only contact temperature measurement devices available. You cannot use RTDs. Okay. Next one, response time. As I told you, generally thermocouples are bonded together at two different junctions, so that we are not providing any extra surface over it to protect or doing anything. So when it comes to the response time, that means the output, the time taken for the output to get 90% of input value, that is what we call it as response time. And to get a response time, if we want a very quick response in fractions of a second, we will generally go for thermocouple. We will not go for RTDs. RTDs are for steady state applications mostly, and you can, if you can wait for 30 seconds or 1 minute of time and all, a few seconds if you can wait, then you can go for RTDs. But in few fraction of seconds, if your input is kept on changing and it has to be reproduced by the instrument, then thermocouples are the best compared to. Third one, the size. Based on size, we can go for it. And a standard RTD sheath, you can see it is varies from 3.175 to 6.35 mm, which is much higher than the thermocouples, which can be as low as 1.6 mm. So if you are measuring, or if your place of measuring the temperature is micro-sized, or it is size is very low, there also RTD, if it occupies more space compared to a thermocouple. Okay, so therefore we will generally go for a thermocouple if your size is lower. If not, we can go for a. Fourth one is accuracy and stability requirements. So based on the accuracy and stability, we also define which instrument we can use. If your tolerance of 2 degrees centigrade is acceptable, that means if the deviation is around 2 degrees centigrade, and you don't require to repeat the experiment many a times. For that particular period of time, if you want to see 3 or 4 times, then thermocouple will serve the purpose because it is a lower cost. Okay, again I'm saying you, if a tolerance, that means the deviation is around 1 degrees to 2 degrees centigrade with a thermocouple. So we can use it if the repeatability can be done in 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, or 1 year. So if you want to have a repeatable test after 6 months, that means you have done the experiment in January, and if you want to also have a look at it in the month of June, so you are repeating the experiment. If you want to reproduce the same temperatures, then you will generally have to go for RTDs. But because thermocouples, depending on the moisture also, oxidation may happen, and therefore your repeatability may not be so accurate compared with RTDs. Okay, but RTDs are capable of higher accuracy and capable of maintaining stability for many years, whereas thermocouples can drift within very first few hours of use. After few hours of use, then sometimes the thermocouples may not give a repeatable balance. So you may ask, sir, why then we are using this? Using that because they are low in cost, and the operations that we perform may not be very precise or accurate. So in that sense, we can go for the thermocouples, in general thermocouples. So you can see over here the construction of an RTD. You can see particularly there is a resistance element. This is the resistance element, and these are the connection leads we have, and there is a sheath that is protecting over. This is the sheath. Okay, that is actually connecting, and there is an insulator that we have. So the lead wires are separated by the insulator so that the heat will not be dissipated to outside. And only this resistance element is here, is this. So this is actually detecting the temperature through the sheath. This is the sheath. From the sheath to the inside thermometer, resistance thermometer, whatever thing is there it will go. And these are the connections. So when we keep it in the temperature, it has to only measure the temperature of this surrounding temperature or surface temperature. But if there is a temperature increase in this because of ohmic losses, so that is also responsible for increase in the resistance, which we have to compensate, which we have to find. So these elements nearly always require insulated leads. As I told you, you have to insulate that to arrest the losses of heat. And at temperatures below about 250 degrees in general, so around 250 degrees centigrade, if you are using PVC, silicon rubber or PTFE insulators are used. We may use silicon rubber, which is generally used as an insulator. PVC, polyvinyl chloride or PTFE insulators, they are generally used. Suppose if the temperatures are much higher than 250 degrees centigrade, then glass fiber or ceramics are used. Okay, so the measuring point, and usually most of the leads require a housing or protective sleeve. So this is the sheet that we have. So this is made of metal alloy, which is chemically inert to the process being done. So this doesn't react with the gases where we are actually measuring the temperature. So then we will use the protective sheet by a metal or a material which is inert, which is chemically inert, the process that we are. So selecting and designing protective sheet is the most important or careful consideration that we have to take than the actual sensor. So protecting the sensor is the most important thing that actually that is actually to be taken care of in the selection or designing of this sheet. Okay, because it has to withstand chemical or physical attack and provide convenient attachment points. They should form a proper contact, number one. They should protect the element from the external elements or chemical attacks that are created by the external or ambient conditions. So that is about your construction of RTD. Simple thing is we have resistance measurement, which may be, as I told you, there may be ohmic losses that will be coming into the picture. So naturally, we have, before calibrating, we have to compensate. If you can compensate what is the unnecessary change in the parameter value, if you can find it out, or if you can nullify that, then obviously whatever you are getting out of the instrument is the true value, isn't it? So in general, the RTD measurements may be, or resistance change measurement may be performed with some type of bridge circuit. You can see over here, we have a circuit, one resistor, second resistor, there is a third resistor, and this is the one which is actually the RTD element. That resistor element is here, and we are connecting it to P. Okay, so as I told you, because of the variation in because of the increase in the ohmic losses, there may be a sudden increase in the temperature of the element, which also contributes to the increase in the resistance, which I should be able to find out. This is what is resistance. So you know that bridge circuit can be used by two measurements. One is the null condition and the other one is deflection condition. So for steady state measurements, what we use is a null condition will be used. Okay, if the measurement is not dynamic in nature, over a period of time, the reading will not vary with respect, the input will not vary with respect to time, then we call it as a steady state measurement. So for a steady state measurement, we use the Wheatstone-Bridges circuit for a null condition. Whereas transient measurements, because with respect to time the input is kept on changing, that usually requires the use of a deflection bridge. There we are using the deflection bridge, deflection Wheatstone bridge method. So one of the primary sources of error in the electrical resistance thermometer is, one of the things is the effect of resistance of the leads which connect the element to the bridge circuit. Whatever the resistance, suppose in the Wheatstone bridge itself, suppose if there is, the resistance is also happens within this element, correct? And because of this resistance, we also have the deflections happening. So we should be able to compensate for that, and therefore we have three methods. One is the Siemens 3-lead meter, the calendar 4-lead arrangement, and the floating potential arrangement. These are the three different methods by which we try to nullify the lead wires resistance error. Okay, the error caused by the lead wires. These are the lead wires. This is a lead wire. This is a lead. So this is connecting to the actual RTD. So there is a resistance that is inside this, because these are also wires which are made up of material, and whenever the current is passing through it, it will also create some resistance because of the change in the temperature. So what is the increase in this particular resistance also should be compensated. So it's almost 10:55. So you can have a look at this. We will discuss this in the next class probably. You can see from here. So we have one more lead wire connected to this, right? Whatever the resistance at balance condition, the central lead, whichever is the central lead, it carries no current. When the circuit becomes balanced, the central lead doesn't have any current because it is connected over here. So it carries no current, and the effect of resistance of the other two leads, whatever is happening here and here, will be cancelled. So this is basically your Siemens 3-lead arrangement. Whereas the calendar 4-lead arrangement solves the problem. We have, instead of directly connecting it to this, we have two more connections. One is in this, and from here to here, we have this 4-lead arrangement. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 lead wires we are actually using. So by inserting 2 additional lead wires in the adjustable leg of the bridge, so that the effect of the lead wires on the resistance thermometer, by providing 4 wires, whatever the resistance is created in the lead wires, that will be in general cancelled out by this method. And finally, the floating potential arrangement, which is shown over here, is same as the Siemens connection, like this only, but we also have an extra lead wire over here. So there is an extra lead wire here. This extra lead may be used to check the equality of lead resistance. This one will help us to find out the extra, whatever the equality is there or not in the lead resistance, that it will be, we monitor this, we will find out. So we have today gone up to the RTDs. In the next few classes, we will look at thermistor in a very quick way, and then temperature measurement by radiation is left over, which is very, very interesting feature because it's non-contact. So there are certain places where we cannot go personally and measure. So in that areas, we use the working principles and working principles of radiation, and thereby we will try to assume or adopt to evaluate the temperature. So those are the methods which we are working, which are based on radiation principles. And then we have transient measurement, transient temperature measurement. How do we do dynamic measurement of temperature? What are the governing equations that we will find out in the next class? So today we will stop with this. Okay. So we will try to look at the lead wire compensation and all in this particular thing. You see, if you go through the Wheatstone bridge circuit, if you have any doubts, you will be able to find out. Otherwise, next class I will try to again play some Wheatstone bridge circuit, and if you have any doubts, we will discuss and this part in the next class in more detail. For the time being, you understand that this is the wires which are actually cancelling out because of providing an extra circuit, extra lead wire. So any questions? I'm happy to answer you. So those who have no doubts, they can leave the class, and those who have doubts, they can stay back and discuss whatever. Another thing, Kalyan is there? Kalyan, are you there?
I think he's not there, sir.
So one thing is, except for Amarnath, what is that? Except for constant volume and constant, will all devices discuss measurement, temperature, and degrees? I didn't understand that question. Oh, you're saying that except for constant volume and constant pressure devices, all devices can measure in degrees, and it depends, no? So if RTD is there, it's all about calibration, right? Suppose if you go to US and if you want to use degree centigrade or Fahrenheit, which one will you use? So it depends on your application, right? So whatever you calibrate, whatever is the scale that you are using, based on that you will make. In India, we use degree centigrade, so generally we will say that in terms of degree centigrade. To go other place, that will be different. Depending on your scale, you can make it. Whatever scale you want. You know the relation between all of them. Even if you make in degree centigrade, you can have a small electric circuit and digitize that to your Fahrenheit or Rankine scale, whatever the scale that you want. Simple equation. Right. Another important thing is like you submit yesterday. Someone has asked me. You submit the record by next Monday. Is that fine? Your exams will be over by Friday. Saturday and Sunday, 2 days I'm giving. Can you be able to submit by Monday?
Sir, we have exam on Monday and Tuesday too. Like it will be over by 12th of October, I guess, sir.
12th of October.
Yes,
How
sir.
many exams do you
Yes,
have?
sir.
How many exams
We
do
have
you have?
we have 6 exam actually,
Six.
but we have 5 days for the exam in a week, and there is a gap because we have some OTs for the company, so there is a gap of 1 day. So 4 exams in the first week, and the remaining 2 will be in the second week, sir.
So up to 12, you don't have any classes.
No, sir, we don't have.
According to the calendar, is that? Let
Yes,
me
sir.
check the calendar. One second.
Of course,
Just
sir.
a second. Okay. So according to the academic calendar, okay, you have up to October 12th, you have exams, examinations. Okay, then probably Wednesday is fine, at least.
Yes, sir. 1 day is enough, sir. We will do it.
Because the next day we have Dashra. I think Thursday is the Dashra, so we will not have anything. So
No, but by Wednesday we will do it, sir. It's fine.
it's fine, right?
Yes, sir.
So anything to discuss about lab and all, is that the lab is okay with you? So whatever the clarifications required, yesterday I think we were clear. Is there anything left over? You just feel free to ask us, okay? Yeah. Jayesh, you want to say something? Don't worry.
No, it was clear. And like this thing was the only thing you want to convey to Kalyan, sir, or if anything
Yeah,
is
it
left?
was the only thing. I mean, I want to convey to Sardak also.
Okay,
If
sir.
you please send us message in your group, so that
Okay, sir.
next,
I will
next
convey.
Wednesday, yeah,
Uh-huh.
next Wednesday until Thursday, next I will
Wednesday
give a-
timing, sir. 12 like night.
until evening 5 you submit it. By
Evening
5 you
5.
submit it. Yeah, that should be
Okay, I will convey to both of the CR, sir.
yeah, that should be fine. Okay, then if you have no doubts, then I will take a leave from you. So anyone taken attendance? Leon is not there. Someone
No,
should
sir.
have.
Okay, sir. I will take screenshot and send
Yeah,
you like
please
to our
take.
brother.
Yeah,
But they have
but
left.
not. Yeah. But we'll see. The maximum I can see in the video, no. So in the
Yes, sir.
video, you can check and.
Okay, I will.
Let's.
And the second thing is, sir, you told yesterday that we have some mechanism in that standard measuring devices for thermocouple, sir. Like I tried to
I
find.
asked you to find. Yeah, good. Yeah, tell me, Jayesh.
Sir, I tried to find, but like I did not get much of the context. I just saw that we use semiconductor, like diode kind of thing. And the voltage and the current are related to somehow temperature. So we measure the voltage and we can adjust the current and voltage so that we have some standard measuring temperature, somewhat like that. But I'm not clear with that.
Correct. Yeah, that is what I'll explain it.
Okay,
We'll
sir,
see
thank you.
when the time is. But I just wanted you to know that because mostly you will be using with these DAC systems and all while measuring, if at all you are going for higher studies. So I thought of this still will be of help for you to make error-free thermocouple measurements. So just I gave you as a small kind of what we call for knowledge sake. You can just have a look at it. I will explain. I will show you how it is done in
Okay,
the
sir,
basic
thank
data
you.
logger and all. Okay. So I think the classes are okay, right? I mean, I don't. No questions from your side means I am thinking that I'm able to satisfy the requirements of you. Some knowledge you are able to get. I mean, am I in some sort of what?
No, sir, it is completely fine, sir.
Right.
Like
Okay.
the portion is going like it is not that complicated. So like, and you are explaining very good. So it is not that
That
we
is
are
what
not
I am
asking
asking.
questions.
So whatever I
Yes, sir.
want to convey, whether it is getting conveyed properly.
Yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I hope everything. If anything is there, please feel free to vent it to me through your CR or someone if you are not comfortable directly telling me. So don't feel that. Just keep messaging me if at all you have some doubts in a particular topic and all, and I'll be very happy to clarify. Okay, so don't worry about if you have a doubt. What if sir will think? Why to ask him? Don't get into that idea. You have every right to know the information that may be helpful for your future in some future. All right. So please take care of yourself. Thanks for attending the class. So we will meet
Yes,
after
sir.
2 weeks. What, Abhilash?
Sir, share the PPTs, sir.
Yeah. That's one thing. Is
Even those pressure you have,
yeah,
you have to
everything
share.
I will share. Everything I will share.
Okay, thank you, sir.
By today evening, I will do everything. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Fine, guys. Huh? Please take care of yourself. Thank you. Bye. I mean,
Sample questions also, sir.
yeah, sure. Sample questions by Sunday. I will do. It takes some time, but I will try to say. Okay. Because first I have to get the question paper, and relatedly I can, if I give you, that would be useful. If I send some question and there is no relation with it, that may not be of any use. I have some sample questions, but I'm trying to do first the question paper, and then relatedly I want to give some questions. So please bear with me, even if I send by Sunday. Just have a look. Okay.
Yes, sir. That would be better.
Fine. Then I'm binding the class, the session today. Bye. Thank you.